For the last few weeks, I've been neck deep in Valorant stats because I decided to finally answer one of the biggest mysteries and phenomenons in Pro Valorant history. Is the infamous 9-3 curse real or fantasy? To answer this, I went back through and analyzed every single VCT match up until the Champions Tournament and found the statistical truth behind the hype. And through all this research, I found so many interesting facts and stats that I doubt anyone else knows about, such as which map is the most cursed for comebacks, as well as which team has been a part of the most 9-3 curses this season. We will get into all that this video, but first you need to subscribe as I'll be putting up an updated version of my top oppers in Valorant video that is pretty mind-blowing and features a pretty well-known Chinese player, so make sure you don't miss out on that when it comes out. Alright, so before we dive deep into the stats surrounding the 9-3 curse, I also found some interesting details about all the other different types of comebacks that happened this season, and I wanted to share the most interesting of them to you first. This season, there were 0 successful comebacks from a scoreline higher than a 9-3 lead at halftime. And when a team led at half, they had just over a 75% chance of winning no matter what side they were going on to. But when looking at the comebacks that were successful this season, teams were most successful when playing from behind on defense, as 52 out of the 91 underdog wins this year were played on the defensive side, which makes sense as on attack you're forced to take the fight to the other team, while on defense you can play more passively, letting the opponent overextend and make mistakes as the pressure is mounting. One of the biggest facts that I found was which maps are most likely and least likely to enable a comeback. And so with Pearl hosting 19 different comebacks this season, they take the crown as the most cursed map in Valorant right now. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Fracture and Bind only had 8, but with Bind only reappearing in the map pool halfway through the season, Fracture is the clear map that if you take a lead early, it's almost unheard of for a team to make a late push for the lead. This is most likely related to how Fracture is played in Pro Valorant, as strats are pretty well defined as teams have gotten used to the changes that occurred almost a year ago. While on other maps, crazy clutches and aim duels can happen, the wide open sides and arrow corridors allow the team with the momentum and better util usage to lead throughout Fracture. The other 4 maps sit between 12 to 16 comebacks each, really showing the massive gap between Fracture and the rest of the map pool right now. So now on to whether or not the 9-3 curse is real or fake. So let's get into the hard facts of this. So in 105 maps that ended in the scoreline of 9-3, 14 of them resulted in the famous 9-3 curse, meaning that there's a 13.3% chance for a team to come back from a 9-3 deficit. This might seem like a pretty small number as it feels way more common than just over 10%. But that's because 9-3 comebacks are the largest comebacks that can happen in pro matches. As like I said earlier, no team came back from a larger deficit at halftime. So does this stat prove or disprove the curse compared to an 8-4 half? Well, it's actually pretty interesting as 20% of 8-4 halves ended in a win for the team that's down. This is a pretty large jump between the two scorelines, with the idea of throwing the last round to avoid the curse being purely copium. While the 9-3 curse isn't as prevalent in pro games as it seems, there were still 14 times where it occurred. And I wanted to look deeper into what caused a 9-3 curse, as well as what teams were caught in the middle of them the most. So out of the 14 9-3 curses this year, 8 of them came from the underdog coming back while on their defensive side, meaning that it doesn't really follow the same trends as the other comeback scorelines, as teams have just as much of a likelihood on either side, with just a slight edge on defense maybe. Also, I found which maps had the most and least 9-3 curses, so there were 0 curses on both Split and Bind, and I could have sworn that Split was one of the most cursed maps during all of 2022, but I guess this year it's been cleansed. On the opposite side, we have Ascent and Pearl at 3 each, which makes sense as Ascent is destined to have big swings as it's hard to win and crack a good defense consistently. But here are all 14 of the 9-3 curses, with 4 of them coming during the lock-in tournament, 5 in the Americas League / LCQ, only 1 in the EMEA League, and 4 in the Pacific League, which is pretty interesting as in the EMEA League, only the very first match of the season between Koi and Na'Vi was there even a 9-3 curse. For 99.9% of their season, the curse really didn't exist in Europe. The team that was caught in the middle of the most 9-3 curses was Cloud9, who went 2-3 in cursed situations, with only a loss to Lev. Other than them, 7 other teams were in 2 different 9-3 curses this year, which I'll throw them up on screen. Only Talon was able to go 100%. Also, the last major fact I wanted to share about the 9-3 curse is that 12 out of the 14 comebacks required both the losing team to win the pistol as well as a second round in the half, with 8 of them winning the bonus as well, putting the game close right away in the new half. Only the Fnatic and Loud matchup, as well as the Americas League matchup between Cloud9 and EG, were matches that didn't require the timely pistol to start the curse, meaning that unless you're Fnatic, starting the run right away is necessary to have a hope in activating the elusive 9-3 curse. So that's everything I found out about this infamous curse, so make sure you subscribe as I will have more videos like this one coming out real soon, with the next video about another phenomenon that's been constantly talked about in Valorant, the Rosa ult. Is the Raze ult useless or not? Trust me, the stats I found out about it are insane, so you won't want to miss out. But until then, see ya!